Hey, you beautiful being. Welcome to Empowered Human with Nina Garcia. I am your host, and it is the month of November, so welcome to our episode on gratitude. I know that you all are frequently asking me, hey, Nina, what can I do to actively feel like I am grateful about things? This is going to be the episode where we explore that. There is a practice to it, because if you are asking yourself the genuine question, how do I feel grateful about things? How do I genuinely feel gratitude? Then this podcast episode is going to explore that with you. Now, the quick answer in a nutshell, for those of you who like, get to the points, right? Quick answer in a nutshell is going to be that you actively practice gratitude. I know, crazy. What? In order to feel grateful, we have to learn how to practice feeling grateful, right? We have to know, what are we even grateful for? Why should we be grateful for that? Why aren't we feeling grateful for that? Or there's so many different facets of it. But grab a journal or a really good friend to dialogue with about this, because even though we won't be exploring every facet, we are definitely going to be exploring one that I know may be able to add something to your plate for you to chew on, to nourish yourself with, right? And to grow with. This is Empowered Human. We are here to disrupt binaries and to be able to help you explore how you can grow to your next level. So, without further ado, if you are going to be listening in and exploring how to genuinely feel grateful and how to actively develop a practice of gratitude, you are going to hear no less than 2 relationship stories about my previous relationships. So if that doesn't sound like you jam today, you may want to lean into the next episode. But if it is, I promise you we keep it empowered. We're going to be acknowledging multiple truths, not just binary truths, and I'll explain that more after the intro, because for now, you know I am so curious. Are you ready to play? Welcome to Empowered Human, the dramatically playful podcast that invites you to heal humanity, the one within you, me, and the world at large. I'm your host, drama therapist, empowerment specialist, and not to mention empowered human, Nina Garcia. And I'm so stoked you're joining me on the journey. Every Wednesday, you are invited to explore transforming from powered to empowered with genuinely human stories of courageous existence, healing from invalidation, and truly belonging to you. So wherever you are on the spectrum, from empowerment curious to empowered human ambassador, this podcast is designed to humanize. Get ready to lean into your edge, heal your worldview, and finally belong to you. This is Empowered Human. Let's take a breath on in. Ooh, stretch it out if you need to. Exhale on out when you're ready. Okay. So we are actively exploring how do we, develop a practice of gratitude today. And this episode was really inspired by people who, in particular, it comes up around this time of year consistently, but even throughout the year, for all of my clients, my friends, my family members who say, I should be grateful for all of these amazing things I have, Nina, but I don't feel that way. And I don't know why I don't feel grateful for all of these things, Nina. In a nutshell, for those of you who like your psychoeducation moments, grab your journal. We're already going to be dropping some nugget knowledge here, yes? In a nutshell, what we're essentially hearing is, Nina, in my thoughts, I know that I am grateful for these things. I understand that these things nourish me, but I do not emotionally feel that I am being nourished by these things. And so behaviorally, Nina, third piece here, we just went through thoughts, feelings, here's behaviorally, the third piece. I do not know how to act as if I am grateful. I do not know how to embody gratitude. What we just did, y'all, is we went through thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. When your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are in alignment and support one another, you are a mostly aligned individual. Life flows, you're in the green zone. It is a beautiful thing. But when only two of those things or only one of those things is really nourishing you in a particularly positive or beneficial direction, it becomes very difficult to feel present in your life. It becomes very difficult to, in this case, feel and embody gratitude, even though you know, right? You understand that you're grateful for those things. You may not emotionally feel the connection to them that says, this is nourishing. Ooh, this feels nourishing. You may be missing that. And so you cannot act as if you are grateful. People think, they're so selfish. They're so self-centered. Or you might even think, I'm so selfish. I'm so self-centered, when really, take a breath on in. Ooh, the truth might be that we might just be dealing with some misalignment. And so if that's the case, if that's true, and I really do want you to pause it here if you need to and ask yourself, is this true? Are we maybe dealing with a little bit of misalignment here? So thoughts, feelings, behaviors. If you are actively practicing gratitude, then your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all trying to line up with what you know you are grateful for, what you feel, right? Or what you want to cultivate feeling grateful for, so that you can act and behave in a way that embodies gratitude. Do you notice how I keep repeating the same things? It's almost like I want you to develop a practice of gratitude. See what I did there? Okay, let's keep going. Thoughts, feelings, and behaviors was the first thing that I took you, put on the plate, right? That I put on the plate for you. Second thing that I just shared was, how can we practice being in alignment with these things? Yes, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. You want to actively practice being in alignment. So next little bit that I want you to put on your plate is, well, if I'm actively practicing this, what is gratitude? How do I even know what this is? Gratitude. The parts of your life that you want to be grateful for are the things that nourish you. For the sake of this episode, that is how I want you to look at gratitude. It is the parts of your life that you are grateful for because they nourish you, not because someone told you you should be grateful for them. Now, this piece is really important. Now, of course, I want you to think about it this way. For this episode, I'm trying to offer you a new perspective, in all likelihood, than you may have been taught. But in the empowered human world, we believe that obligation is not liberation. And so if you feel obligated to feel gratitude about something, to feel grateful about something, then you do not feel free to feel that gratitude, to feel grateful for something. Does that make sense? I want you to rewind and play that back if you need to. Obligation is not liberation. If you feel obligated to be grateful for something, you do not feel free to be grateful for that. Does this make sense? It's such a nuanced, important difference in the empowered human world. We talk a lot about nuance and a lot about diversifying our lens and our perspective so that we can hold the nuance that is just the reality of humanity. And so this episode is no different. As you sit there thinking about thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, as you think about aligning them, and as you think about, how do I release myself of obligation and genuinely free myself to feel gratitude, right? To explore and express gratitude for something. We're coming back to this idea constantly in this episode of what nourishes you. So write that down. What nourishes me? Question mark. Yes, it will be the question of the episode. What nourishes you? I always have a story. I like to start with some stories, right? Then we fill in a little bit more psychoeducation pieces, and then I give you an adventure challenge. So stay tuned, ride the ride all the way on through to the end. Here we go. Story time. I have two relationships that I'm going to give you that we're going to focus on. One was one of the healthiest relationships I've had in my life. It was the boyfriend I had after I got divorced, separated. And we're going to call that boyfriend Nick. And then I will give you a second story. The second story is inarguably one of the worst relationships I've ever had in my life, including assault and abuse in this relationship. And we'll call that one Trevor. Okay, we're going to hear a story about Nick and a story about Trevor. First things first, let's hear about Nick. My relationship with Nick was beautiful. 90% of our relationship was great. 10% of our relationship turned out to be this toxic old pattern that I could not help my partner work through. It was something they had to work through. And it was something that I didn't have any capacity for much longer, right? We ended our relationship because of this. I didn't have capacity to stay for them to work through it. And so when I think about this relationship, 90% of it being so beautiful, so healthy, we traveled together, we made plans together, we had family time with my little together. There were so many beautiful things about this human being. So many things to very easily be grateful for, right? Which is why we're starting with this relationship. It's easy to be grateful for this person who bought me flowers just because. It was easy to be grateful for this person who wanted to have deep emotional conversations with me, who wanted to build a bridge with me. It's easy to be grateful for this person who shared their knowledge with me about bikes and cycling and, wanted to plan adventures with me and did, right? Again, we traveled, we had family fun time, we had passion. This person was so passionate. They were themselves. It was such a beautiful relationship. But that 10% that just kept coming back, that I didn't have capacity to wait for them to deal with, I said, I have to get out of this. I can't stay in this anymore. I'm not single in my 20s without a kid, right? I'm not there anymore. I really need space for myself to be able to heal. Because of this, when I look back on this relationship and I ask myself, what nourishes me? I could absolutely be focusing on the one lens that says this relationship ended because you didn't have time and capacity, Nina. You didn't have enough resources. Ugh, wow, it's all your fault. Does that sound like it nourishes me? I could be focused on that, yes, as many of you are focused on your own, right, incapacities, incapabilities, right? I could be focused on that, or I could just accept the reality as it was. I did not have capacity. I was actually becoming unwell, right? Trying to handle all of the different things in my life. I couldn't anymore, right? Something had to give. And so when I think about the lens that I want to focus on, again, what nourishes me? It doesn't nourish me to think about only focusing on at least what went wrong. I could focus on his stuff. Oh, he had this issue. It's from a previous relationship. How could he not deal with it in the amount of time that we needed? How can he just go for it and, heal himself, right? As if people worked that way. That doesn't nourish me. The thought does not nourish me. Is it a part of the reality that this person had something to work through? Definitely, but does not nourish me to focus on that. When I look at the entire relationship and I say, 90% of our relationship is so beautiful. What am I genuinely grateful for? Because that is what is nourishing me. Ask yourself that question, because in this case, I am genuinely grateful that 90% of our relationship was some of the most beautiful memories I have ever had. Some of the healthiest relationship experiences I've ever experienced. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that my thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, I can embody gratitude for this relationship as a whole, because there were so many moments that nourished me within it. And even though we are no longer together, when I look back on this relationship, I choose to focus on, write that down, and highlight, write that down, that which nourishes me. I have actual memories from the relationship with Nourish Me. And also when I think about how healthy our breakup was, we understood and we were on the same page with why we were breaking up. Right? There was work that needed to be done and we could not do it together. That nourishes me. I think, how many relationships would be so much healthier if they could just acknowledge the truths, the multiple truths that are present, and that this is a natural separation that needs to happen for both parties to benefit. That nourishes me. And when I think back on this relationship and I think, oh man, I'm no longer with him, right? We're no longer a couple anymore. What nourishes me? And I'm so grateful that now I know this relationship has set the standard and the bar for any future relationships in my life. It was that beautiful. The bar has been set, and it's not about me comparing, right, future people to this. It's about an internal standard that has been set. It is about what I have experienced gratitude for and what I know that I would love to have nourish me in the future. So I'm going to pause there and I want to roll the ball over to you already. I want you to be thinking about your own relationships in your life, whether they're romantic, whether they're familial, whether they're, oh my gosh, what's the word that we use for friendships? platonic, right? Whatever the relationship is, work wise, or all of the things, whatever the relationship is in your life that you say, you know what, I can practice gratitude with this because it's easy to practice gratitude with this. Yes, start with your easy relationship if you can. Then go through, ask yourself, what is it during the relationship that nourished me that I can focus and highlight on? Yes, of course, there are some things that did not nourish me. And also, what are the things I want to focus and highlight on that did nourish me during the relationship, maybe during the transitions of this relationship that you're thinking about? And also, if that relationship no longer exists in your life in the way that it once did, what are you grateful for looking back on it because you have grown from it? That piece is important. Do you want to know why? When we've had an experience in our lives, we can passively experience it, not grow from it, not learn from it necessarily, and then it might happen again over and over and over again. Or you can actively learn from it, take lessons from it, and you can grow. Now, of course, here in the Empowered Human Universe, we love the growth-oriented piece, right? So I've got a bias here. I want you to grow from your experiences. I do. I want that for you. And so we go into this second story. The second story, Trevor, inarguably the worst relationship of my life, terribly abusive and assaulted in this relationship. And when I look back on this relationship, and again, I'm asking myself, how can I actively practice gratitude in a relationship in which assault and abuse was present? Can I do that? Let's see, folks. Let me walk you through my own process. You take what works for you and you leave behind what doesn't. And if you're curious about something, you put it on the shelf. Yeah? When I think about my relationship with Trevor and I, right, I already said the negative things that were there. And yet I kept showing up in this relationship because I was not actively learning. I was like, oh, I can change this. Oh, we can get out of this. Oh, this can get better, right? No, it couldn't. I was not acknowledging the multiple truths that were present. I kept focusing on what could be an idea of what could be, right? Because I said, oh, I should stay. Oh, what are we flagging there, y'all? Is obligation liberation? No, it's not. Obligation is not liberation. And yet I felt like I should stay because I can help this person. I can make this better. We can do this together. He can change, right? It is not my responsibility to help someone change. But we're focusing on gratitude. And so here's my process. When I think back on this relationship during it, are there moments, are there things that I am genuinely grateful for? I cannot be grateful for something, right, that is bright and light and focused and nourishes me without also acknowledging the parts of the truth, right, of the story that do not nourish me. This factually, in reality, was a relationship that had abuse, that had assault. This also, right, was a relationship that had a lot of passion, a lot of intensity. It was not always good. Did we have good moments? Yes, definitely. Is that what nourishes me when I think about this relationship? I have to genuinely ask myself that question. It's the same thing I want you to ask yourself. Does that nourish you, or were they just some decent moments, some good moments even? Those moments do not nourish me when I think about this relationship. So the relationship itself does not nourish me when I think back on that. I think I'm not grateful for that relationship. Okay, well, what about the transition? What about the transition time, right? The move from out of that relationship into something different. It was incredibly toxic. I fell apart many times, tried to leave many times, with a lot of damage to myself sometimes. And no, I'm not grateful for the pain of that either. But when I look back on this relationship, again, as I process through the during, the transition, and the after, when I look back on this relationship, I am so grateful that I had the wherewithal to grow after this relationship, this traumatic relationship in my life. I am so grateful that I had the capacity to learn from this experience after I finally was able to get out of it, that I did learn how to see yellow and red flags much sooner, and not just to see them sooner, but to respond to them sooner, to move those people out of my life sooner. When we come to this question, actively trying to practice gratitude, and we ask ourselves, what nourishes me, even about some of the worst things that have happened to us in our life? It might not be the thing itself. It might not even be the transition out of the thing, although it might. It might be when you look back and you realize how much you have grown and how much gratitude you have for that, because that is what is nourishing you, your growth. In the therapy community, we have a phrase for the growth that happens after a trauma. It is called post-traumatic growth. Sometimes you will hear people talk about post-traumatic resilience, right? And that's the growth that we have, the strength or the resilience, right? To get back up, the ability to get back up after we've been put down. And this is something that I can say I am grateful for. And so, am I actively practicing gratitude here? Yes, I am. I am actively practicing getting my thoughts, feelings, and behaviors online and supporting one another in ways that are beneficial for me. I am actively saying and recognizing there are things that are a part of the picture that do not nourish me. So I am going to acknowledge them. I'm going to own that they're there, but I am not going to focus or highlight on them. Why? Because they do not nourish me, and I deserve to be nourished. You deserve to be nourished. You deserve to feel and know and act in ways that allow you to embody gratitude. You deserve to genuinely feel grateful for things in your life that you should feel grateful for. I just said the should word, right? That you would feel grateful for if it were safe enough to feel that. We started this episode, and the question of the hour, so to speak, was how do I genuinely feel grateful, Nina? And I hope that you have been able to explore this question, yes, through the stories, but also through putting yourself in some of the shoes of these different characters. We actively practice gratitude by acknowledging multiple truths, right? Multiple truths that are present in the moment, and focusing, highlighting what nourishes us. That is that active right? What nourishes me within this picture as I moved from this picture or after I left this picture. Yes, again, in no uncertain terms, what nourishes me within the relationship as I moved from the relationship or after as I look back on this relationship. What nourishes me? I gave you two stories. I want you to own multiple truths. I want you to focus and highlight on the things that nourish you. And of course, I want you to have an adventure challenge. So when we think about back on this episode for this upcoming week, here's your adventure challenge. I like to give this in 3 different levels. The first one being self-awareness. Then once you feel confident with your self-awareness, maybe you move on up and you say, let's do some self-knowledge. And then once you feel comfortable with self-knowledge, maybe you move on up to self-realization. Yes? Starting from level 1, right? If you're a level 1 adventure challenger this upcoming week, I want you to just get into your self-awareness. Am I aware of relationships in which I am actively, passively, or not practicing gratitude? Am I aware of relationships, right, that may be challenging me, that I feel ungrateful for, that I feel are not nourishing me? Am I aware of these relationships? That is the very base level. If you can tell me these are the relationships that nourish me, Nina, that I want to be practicing gratitude on, and these are the relationships that are not nourishing me, Nina, I'm aware that they exist. That's all I want you to do. Just be aware that they exist, okay? If that's your level 1 challenge, good luck to you. I'm sending you energy, right? Let's get some awareness going on for what's happening with these relationships in your life, yes? And if you're a level 2 adventure challenger, we're going to move you on up. You said, Nina, I'm aware of these relationships. Now I need to know how I feel about them. Do I know that I'm intentionally showing up in these relationships? Or do I know maybe I need to transition out of these relationships so that I can be grateful, right? Maybe the relationship itself is not where I'm going to experience nourishment and gratitude. Maybe I need to transition out of this relationship. Or maybe I need to look back on a relationship that has ended. I want you to ask yourself, if you're a level 2 adventure challenge this week, are you aware not only of the relationship, but do you know how you feel about it? Do you know if you're experiencing gratitude about it? And do you know what needs to happen? If you're not, Again, the focus in there is, if I'm not experiencing nourishment during the relationship, what can I change? In the relationship, do I need to transition out of the relationship, right? Or do I need to look back on a relationship and ask myself, have I grown from this? What is nourishing me? Okay, that's your level 2. If you're like, Nina, I've got it. I am aware of the relationships that do and don't nourish me. I know what I need to do in these relationships so that I can focus and highlight the parts that nourish me. What's my level 3 challenge? Your level 3 challenge is to commit to one of those things, to making it happen. You know what needs to happen now if you're at level 3, but now you have to realize that, right? Level 3 is about self-realization. You have to commit to make the shift. And it might feel scary. It might feel a little threatening, a little risky, right? I don't want you to do anything that's dangerous, just so we're clear. I want to invite you, right? And this is an invitation for you to be able to explore what nourishes you, and you having the agency to say, I choose to focus on these things. I'm not obligated to this, but I am choosing to understand what I am grateful for, to feel that gratitude, and then to embody that gratitude. Yeah. So we've come to the end of the episode. I've given you what I came to give you today, and I hope that it has been helpful for you. There is a little something that I did not say that I was going to share, because it does not have to do specifically with this episode. But for those of you who are still here, still listening, I do have a question/thought for you. We are thinking about pausing the podcast and potentially doing some reruns of episodes so that I can focus on the book. I love doing the podcast. I don't want to leave doing the podcast. And yet I understand that the empowered human lifestyle can only be shared piecemeal in podcast episodes. And if I can have time to actually focus on the book, I can give everybody the manual. I can give everybody the guide for those of us who follow this lifestyle, so that we can make informed choices and have new skills, right there in our hands. And I can't necessarily do that with the podcast. So while you're exploring gratitude and feeling grateful from this episode, if you have any thoughts on whether we should pause it all together, do some reruns, or Nina, please, at all costs, do not stop doing the podcast, please feel free to message me on Instagram at Drama Therapist Nina. Or if you're like, nope, social media not my thing, you can text me 281-713-5165 and let me know, what are your thoughts, right? What are your thoughts when it comes to this? I really want to get the empowered human lifestyle and tools out there. And I think we're having a challenge doing it on the podcast. So that is what I wanted to share with you all. Just a little bit of extra stuff there. And I look forward to hearing from you all. Thanks for doing the work with me. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much for being willing to explore healing your humanity on Empowered Human. I hope you found at least one new way to transform your worldview from powered to empowered. If you took something from the show, please take a moment of your time and subscribe to Empowered Human. And if it really nourished you, leave us a review. Your feedback helps me understand what our community needs. Not to mention, it helps others discover the empowered human life. So keep this last bit in mind. All the visual goodies come with me on Instagram at Drama Therapist Nina. Stay up to date there on upcoming episodes, behind the scenes goodness, and reels dropping knowledge. Thank you again for being part of the empowered human community. Until next time, stay curious.